Today is Father's Day, June 2019. Today I'd like to honor our father by telling a story that he told me a few times when I was growing up in Texola, Oklahoma. My dad is a man of very few words, and for him to tell a story means that he has something to say. This story is a little hard for me to get through, so I'll try to get through it as best I can. But it has to do for when he was in the military. I never really think of ourselves as being from a military family, even though my father was in the military, my oldest brother was in the military, and we have a nephew that's been in the military. So I guess in a way that makes us a military family. But anyway, my dad was in the military at the end of World War II. And it was a difficult war, as many know, but it was also a time of segregation in the military. My dad was fighting for the freedom of this country, just like so many men in the military, but being African American, he wasn't always treated the best. But the story I'm going to tell you today has to do with the way people should treat each other, and I think that's the reason my father told us this story. One of the most favorite things that I enjoyed doing with my father, and I miss very much, is sitting on our front porch in Texola drinking coffee. My mom and dad planted this beautiful garden, fairly large garden, to the east of the house, where everyone could go and pick as many vegetables as they wanted. And it was a beautiful garden, and we would love to just sit on the front porch, drink coffee, and talk about things, and look at that garden. Well, one day, for some reason, we were talking about the military, and he told me this story. He said that when he got out of the military, they flew the soldiers into Oklahoma City to be dispersed on Greyhound buses to go home. And so Dad got on the Greyhound bus to go home to Texola. He would be let off in Eric, where the main bus stop was. So he gets on the bus, and the first thing he's told by the bus driver and some of the people on the bus is that he should go to the back. Being an African American man at that time, that's what you did. You rode on the back of the bus. So Dad, being as tired as he was, and he wasn't going to argue the point anyway, took his duffel bag and he went to the very back of the bus and just threw it down and went to sleep. He was exhausted. So there he was on the bus, and the bus was making the stops. You know, Yukon, El Reno, Weatherford, Clinton, Elk City, all of those stops in western Oklahoma. Well, for some reason, this bus not only went to western Oklahoma, it went all the way into Shamrock, Texas, before making its turnaround. Well, the bus driver had forgotten that my dad was on the bus, and when he got to Shamrock, Texas, to check everything, make sure people hadn't left anything on the bus, he noticed that my dad was still on the bus. And he woke him up and he said, "Son," he said, "where were you supposed to get off?" And Dad said, "Texola, or Eric." And the bus driver said, "Well, we're in Shamrock, Texas." And Dad said, "Oh, okay. I was going to walk anyway from Eric to Texola," and in those days it wasn't unusual for people to walk, even though Eric to Texola was 7 miles. He said, "Well, I'm in Shamrock, I guess I'll walk." And the bus driver said, "No, son, you're not going to walk. You just got out of the military, you're not going to walk." He says, "You just wait right here, I'll take you home." And Dad was like, "No, no, no," and the bus driver said, "No, I'm taking you home." So Dad picks up his duffel bag and proceeds to go to the back of the bus, and the bus driver said, "No, son, you sit right here." And that was towards the front of the bus, and so Dad sits down. And as they're riding back on the bus driver just starts a conversation, what did you do before you were in the military? What kind of work did you do? Do you have family? That whole sort of thing. And so they had a nice little talk. The bus driver gets back into Texola, and Dad thinks that he's just going to let him ride off there at Main Street, which isn't that far from where Dad lives, it's just down the street a little bit. But no, this bus driver takes him all the way home to the house. This big Greyhound bus pulling up to the house. Now, my dad was late, So my mom was worried, but she was so happy to see that big Greyhound bus. And the bus driver lets my dad off the bus right there and thanks him for his service, for being in the military, working for our country. Now, I think my dad told me that story, and probably some of my brothers and sisters that story, to emphasize that there are good people out there of all colors. And sometimes they just do the right thing, the just thing. That's a story that my dad never forgot. And that's a story that I've never forgot. And to honor him, I wanted to tell you that story also. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful Father's Day this June 2019.